Mary Colleen Beecham Nicholson. My grandparents were S.J. Beecham Sr. That's Stonewall Jackson Beecham. And Mrs. Jackson was my grandfather's godmother. That's the connection. And of course, Daddy was a junior. And we had the Allied Van Line moving company, moving in storage down on East Markham Street. And it's now a museum.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that Museum of Natural History or whatever it is down there before you get to the Clinton Library.
Okay. That's your father's parents?
That's my father's parents. My mother's mother died when she was 6 years old, and she and her sister went to Hope to live with her mother's sister because her father couldn't take care of all the kids. He was in the Coca-Cola business with Mr. Montgomery, and it was at a time when it was going pretty good, but his wife got cancer and he had to sell out. Too bad. But my mother was a lovely, lovely lady, and I couldn't have asked for a better set of parents than Mother and Daddy.
Yeah.
I was an only child. They had lost one child before me at childbirth. So I guess you'd say I was spoiled rotten.
Oh.
In other words, I had wonderful care and everything I needed and all the friends that you could imagine.
Oh, so an only child, no regrets about
No
that?
regrets. And we had a maid that came to live with my grandmother, my grandparents. She found her in a cotton field and asked her mother if she could bring her to Little Rock and train her to be a maid and let her live with her, and she would pay her. And that was just heaven to them back then. And so her name was Ethel Williams, and she ended up being Big CoCo, and I was Little CoCo.
Oh, really?
Now that's just a whole nother
Now
a whole nother story.
which CoCo came first?
I think I did, because the little boy across the street couldn't cross the street, and he would stand in his yard and yell, "Co, Co," and he couldn't say Colleen. So that's where CoCo came from.
Ah, I was going to ask.
And I don't really know how Big CoCo, how her name came about, but she was always Big CoCo to all my friends,
Right.
and Mother and Daddy.
Oh.
And of course, this was back during segregation, but she adopted a daughter, and she asked Mother and Daddy if she could bring her child to live with us, and Mother and Daddy said yes. So I had a little playmate all my life, and she grew up to have 3 master's degrees.
Really?
Yeah, I barely got through college.
Yeah.
I majored in bridge.
So back in the day, you had what amounted to a sister almost.
I had a sister, a little black sister,
Right.
and
how,
she learned to play the piano on our piano.
Uh-huh.
And when I went to camp, Daddy sent her to a black camp. And he and Mr. Grunfest, who owned Sterling stores, helped send this little girl to college.
Oh.
So, I mean, I've come from really nice people.
Right. Right. Oh, that's sweet.
My grandparents always came and had dinner with us on Sunday afternoon. and they would come early, and we would sit around the radio, and they were these great big radios back then. You didn't have a little small, they had to be big. And we would listen to One Man's Family and Jack Benny and all the favorite old time programs. And one day, my programs didn't come on, and I couldn't imagine what happened to Jack Benny. All I heard was was
Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor. That's all we heard about was Pearl Harbor. And so right after that, Daddy joined, and we were sent several different places.
Okay.
And one night, General Ribo called Daddy and said, "Stoney, I want you to go down to the newspaper tonight and get the first copy, and you'll see what you've been doing. I haven't been able to tell you up until now." And being in the moving business, they took people that were special, that did specialized things. And Daddy specialized in packaging, moving and packaging. And Daddy had been packaging heavy artillery to be soft landing on a beachhead.
But did he not know what he was working on?
Well, he didn't know where.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he knew it was going to be on a beach,
Right.
but he didn't know it was going to be Normandy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Normandy.
Yeah.
Oh, so he had a direct hand in
Yeah.
D-Day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, after the war was over, everybody in our group in Little Rock, they came home and they were getting their businesses going again. And it was just a wonderful time to grow up.
Yeah.
There were country club dances. Everybody wanted to have a good time. And I grew up in a really fun era. Now, not everybody in the world was having fun, but I was having fun, and all of my friends were.
So describe a dance to me. What was that like?
Well, we'd go to the country club, and the parents were always there, and they would dance. They'd dance with us. Or we'd go to the Lafayette Hotel, and there were DAD and PIE. Those were fraternity and sorority dances at the Lafayette Hotel and the Skyway. We had those 2 or 3 times a year. And
What kind of music was it? Big band?
big band type. It wasn't big band. It was Tommy Scott. Does that ring a bell, Tommy Scott? Well, he was well known back in our era.
Right.
Very, very, everybody liked Tommy Scott.
And what sort of dancing did you do?
Jitterbug,
Yeah?
and our parents, we had chaperones. Mother and Daddy chaperoned a lot of them.
Right.
It was just the thing to do back then.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
Everybody was happy that the war was over and ready to
Yeah,
get
the
back
war
to-
was over, and I was fortunate enough to get to go to a wonderful college, Randolph-Macon.
Yeah.
It was Randolph-Macon Women's College back then. It's now co-ed. And it was just a lovely female school
And that was where?
in Lynchburg, Virginia. And there was no smoking, no drinking, you know. And I got to go to dances, big band dances at Washington and Lee and Princeton and the nice schools. And we could, it was nothing to go to New York and be safe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We just,
so you had all your girlfriends at your girls' school, but there was no shortage of boys around.
oh yeah, boys everywhere. Yeah.
And
But
what-
when we went to the boys' schools, we were chaperoned. And they had special places for us to stay. was really nice back then.
Yeah. And I read in the newsletter that you majored in Greek. What was that about?
I hate to tell you, it was the easiest major up there.
It wouldn't have been for me.
No, well, this was just a different situation. Everybody loved this Greek teacher, and I could memorize real well. And we had Greek plays at the end of the year, and I had the lead in all the Greek plays.
Really?
Yeah, not all of them, but I mean, I did my last year.
Mm-hmm.
But
Now,
we had choruses, and that was
were you a fluent Greek speaker when it was over?
no. No, I could read a little bit of Homer's Iliad and a little bit of John in the Bible. I had to translate John, Matthew, Mark, Luke. Yeah, John. It was the fourth one, John.
Right. I bet you remember some Greek now. What was your favorite Greek phrase? Lay a little Greek on me.
Arthane kalues hectodendron phynatai tisoponer. And that's all I can remember.
That's pretty good. What was that?
I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember.
That was good.
It may have been the first line of the Iliad.
That was good. Do you happen to know your ancestry back to, I assume, Western Europe?
Yeah.
Where are your people from?
The Beechams are from, on Daddy's side, are from England and France. Mm-hmm. The French is Beauchamp, Beauchamp, and Beecham in England is Beecham. Mm-hmm. And my great somebody great helped finance the Mayflower.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's in our deal.
So when and where were you born? Was it Little Rock?
Little Rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what?
In St. Vincent's,
Okay.
but it was the old St. Vincent's.
Right.
It was that was real close to Mount Holly Cemetery back then.
And the day and date of your birth was?
2/24/31.
Okay.
Was 31. I'm 91.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And thinking back, as far back as you can remember, what's your very earliest memory?
My earliest memory, believe it or not, is standing in a crib with an earache in my grandmother and grandfather's house. But I do remember that.
Wow. And you'd guess you were what, 2 years old maybe?
Yeah, 1 year or 2 years.
Right.
But I was standing in a crib. That's my earliest memory.
Let's see. Did we mention that you graduated from Central High School?
Central High School.
In what year?
Well, I was really 48, but I graduated in 48 because I graduated from Randolph-Macon in 52. I was a mid-termer, and I went to summer school 2 summers so I could graduate early.
I see.
And I've always joked, I think Mother and Daddy did that because they just couldn't take any more of that music and all those kids running in and out of the house, and they wanted to get on with it.
They were ready for the party to move
Ready
on down
for
the
the
road.
parties to of course they never did.
Oh. But they sound like good sports, though.
They were wonderful sports, and all of my friends loved my parents. And I remember one boy showed up in the front yard without a shirt on. And my father went out and had a little talk with him and said, "Son, you don't come over here without a shirt on." I don't know why I remember that.
Good
But
for
from
him.
then on, he wore a shirt.
I bet he did. So after you graduated from college, then what?
Then I got married. Oh, no, after I graduated from college, my uncle, who was my mother's brother, was lived in Argentina, and he owned mines up in the Andes. He was a very wealthy man, and he gave me a trip to Buenos Aires, to Argentina,
Right.
as a graduation present.
Nice.
And you probably don't know who Juan Perón was. He was a dictator.
Oh, Evita's husband.
Huh?
Evita's
husband.
Right.
Yeah. And I was with them a lot.
Really?
A lot, maybe 3 times.
Right.
But I was impressed
You were
as a
impressed.
child, as a 21-year-old. I was very impressed.
Right.
Now, he was not well thought of, but he sure did look good in that white uniform.
And you were in Argentina for how long? Did you say Argentina?
I was there for about 6 or 8 weeks. I was supposed to stay 6 months, but there was a revolution going on, and I could not wait to get out of Argentina.
So you could feel the tension.
I had to deal with all of that. I had to have a bodyguard every place I went.
Wow.
And of course, all 3 of us did. But it was quite an experience, and something I look back on with fond memories, and I love to talk about it because it was so unusual. And then I got married and started having babies. And my first one was Mary Morrison, adorable little girl. And one funny story about her is she was lying on a blanket in the floor in the living room. And all of a sudden, I looked up and she wasn't there. Scared me to death. I looked all around the house. I mean, she was an infant. And I called Mother and Daddy, and they came running over, called my husband home. We could not find her. She had scooted under the couch.
Oh, really?
And we had no idea that she had that strength, like a 6-week-old baby could do that. But I'll never forget that. It scared me to death.
And then you had some other babies.
Huh?
And then you had some additional children.
Yeah, then I had Grayson
Okay.
and Pure Joy. And then I had Matthew, my only son, and he was a pistol. And then little Martha. And she was just a perfect child, very easy to raise.
That's sweet.
I've been very blessed with wonderful children.
Which one's your favorite?
Whichever one I'm with at the moment. I know how to answer that.
Yeah, I'll pretend Grayson made me ask you that.
Yeah.
Well, and let's see, I think we skipped something, the whole Dale Carnegie career.
Oh, we haven't gotten there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, then after I got a divorce, I realized I've got to do something. I've got to do something with my life.
Yeah.
And I was scared to death to get up in a junior league meeting and say we're going to have a luncheon next Tuesday. I just didn't, at the moment, I didn't have that gift.
Right.
So I took a Dale Carnegie course, and right after I finished it, I was asked to come to Dallas and be the studio manager at Neiman Marcus for men's portraits. Giddings. Do you remember Giddings?
No.
They were a very famous photography company. That was before it got where everybody could be a photographer. These were very, very fine portrait photography.
Right.
Portraits. And then I stayed with them for a year. Took another Dale Carnegie course, and was asked to go to work for Dale Carnegie, and I married the president.
What?
Yep,
The president of the whole company?
the president of Joe Nicholson and Associates.
Uh-huh.
It was I forgot. Well, anyway, for all of Texas.
Right, right.
He was the president for all of Texas.
Okay, okay.
And that was a wonderful experience. I loved Dale Carnegie.
Now, what did you do for them?
Well, I was in sales,
Mm-hmm.
and I traveled with Joe.
All
You
right.
know, we had some awfully nice trips. Joe Nicholson treated my children like his own children. He loved them. He even took Grayson on a ski trip by herself, bought her a ski outfit, and he wore blue jeans on the cold mountain. But he really loved my children.
And how was he with you?
Oh, I know her. He was fun. He was a fun husband.
And just so we understand, what is it that Dale Carnegie sells?
Oh, it helps people to speak effectively. There's a course that you take, and they start out pretty much like what you're doing, asking the person questions. You know, where were you born, et cetera. Getting the person to talk. That's the main thing. And as you develop confidence in speaking. That's what Dale Carnegie is.
I read in that newsletter that you described yourself as being in the self-improvement business.
Yeah.
Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I went after Joe and I got a divorce, but we stayed best friends. And I went to work for Ed Foreman, who has the Successful Life course. And we would have weekends down in Kerrville, Texas. And I was in sales getting companies to send their people to this course. It was self-improvement.
And I get the impression you're kind of the life of the party, even here at the nursing home. Do you consider yourself to still be in the self-improvement business?
Yeah, I'm always trying to help somebody.
Well, I'm sure they love having you around for that reason and
Well,
others.
you know, I figured as long as I'm here, make the most of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like God put me here for a reason. Why do I break an arm and have to be in a nursing home? So there are some really nice people here, and I have some good friends here. And then there are a lot of people that need love. They need a pat on the back. They need somebody to care about them. And one of my very good friends does not have family one. She's had 5 strokes and can't remember half of what went on in her life. And I am her best friend.
Oh.
I am her only connection to family. And she needs me. And I love her very much.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, I'm sure you're a blessing to a lot of people here.
And they're a blessing to me.
Oh, that's sweet. Um, Grayson wanted me to ask you in particular about the trip you took to Sedona with her. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, yeah, we had the best time. We laughed from the moment we started out until we came back. It was just a great trip. Do you know about Sedona?
I've been there.
Have you? Well, you know that it's an energy
The vortex?
vortex, and I guess you're either sad or real happy and real, if you're hyper. Grayson and I were hyper the whole time we were there.
Yeah?
Always looking for UFOs and going out on trying to climb a mountain and
Right.
and doing stuff.
Yeah.
And we just had the best time.
Oh.
Loved being with her.
Did you have any mystical experiences? See any UFOs?
Not there. I've been to Mexico with some friends, and we used to sit out on the balcony, and we would watch lights go like this. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you're a believer.
I am a believer, but I've never seen an actual UFO. But my daughter has. One came over Boston. She and her friend were out walking one afternoon, and this huge disc came over her house. She said it was bigger than 2 football fields. Scared them to death.
Wow.
It was a disc.
Wow.
Silent. But I have just seen things in the distant, like out in the ocean, lights that weren't doing right, like they're supposed to do.
Interesting. I'm a believer. Now, you've been to a lot of places in the world. Do you have a favorite place, one you'd go back to if you could, or just one that stands out in your memory? Let's see.
Well, what comes to mind right now is going to New York with all my friends. And a kind of a cute story is a lot of my friends were gay. They were the best friends you could ever have.
Guys, girls, or both?
Oh, just guys, just guys. And my mother let me go anywhere with them. I'd call and say, Mama, so-and-so wants me to meet him in New York. Honey, go and have a great time. Well, one day I called her and I said, Mama, Monroe wants me to meet him in New York. Dead silence. And she said, go and have a great time. So when I get up there and the train pulls in, who is standing on the platform waiting for me? My father. She said, Daddy.
Really?
I didn't tell her that Monroe's girlfriend was Ida Mae and she was going to be with us. I'd never had a date with Monroe.
He thought it was a date.
Yeah, she just he just did not qualify as one of the bunch.
Oh.
But Daddy took us all out to restaurants, and he took me to the opera, dropped me off at the opera, and then came back and picked me up. And he took my friends to see Kiss Me Kate, and when he got back home, he said, that was the most expensive trip I've ever taken to New York, but it was the most fun.
Oh, good, good. Okay, now tell me about Martha Bush.
Okay, Martha was my live-in babysitter and her daddy had bought some kind of a course for her to learn to repair TV sets. And when she got up to Little Rock, my daddy asked her, Martha, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And she said, go to college and be a doctor. And he said, well, you've told the right person. And he said, what kind of grades did you have? Straight A's. He got her a Fulbright scholarship.
Really?
And she went to college and then went on to become a doctor.
Really?
And she is one of our best friends. And while she was going to med school, she would go over to Mother and Daddy's with her stethoscope. And she was always doctoring on them too.
Oh.
And literally takes care of me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
And she's from a farm family.
Mm-hmm.
And she and her husband, who also has a master's, has a doctorate degree, not as a doctor, but as a doctorate in management or something.
Right.
Anyway, they bought a farm. They bought this farm up in Romance, Arkansas, and it is just a delight to go up there. Tommy loves fixing the farm up, and Martha loves the vegetables and canning and doing all that. That's kind of a sideline for her, and making jelly and things, and she brings a lot of that to me. And she also helps me with my medical needs. She's another daughter to me.
That's sweet.
She's a real sweetheart. A member of our family. She and Tommy both are are members of our family. When Martha was in high school, we were living in Dallas. She and her best friend were doing that skit. They were doing the Blues Brothers.
Gotcha.
And they got on the local gong show.
Ah.
Yeah.
Did they win?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good for them.
When Ronnie was a baby, they had a playpen in the kitchen, and Big CoCo would babysit so Robbie Lee could go to college. So here was this little black kid in my family's kitchen, and every time Daddy would come down, Ronnie would say, "Hi, Papa. Hi, Papa."
Oh.
Cutest thing in the world. God, I love that cat. He lived 19 years, and I let him be a cat, an indoor cat and an outdoor cat. And one day he brought home a female cat to introduce her to me. I mean, this was a human cat. And I gave him some food, brought him in the house, you know, nutty me. And, oh, what a cat. The way he got his name was Pepper. But he was a naughty little cat in the neighborhood. And he'd gotten into some trouble. And Grayson named him, you're just nothing but an old booger. What's wrong with you? So he was Booger from then on. The lovable love of my life.
Oh.
He was a tuxedo, black and white. Mary was living with me at the time, and I had wrapped all the Christmas presents and put them under the tree. And Booger went in her room. It was late one night. And meowed and carried on, and she said, "All right, what is it? What do you want?" So he jumped off her bed and started walking to the living room, and she got up and followed him. And he sat by the Christmas tree, and she said, "Do you want me to turn the Christmas tree lights on?" And he still sat there, and she said, "All right." So she turned the lights on, and he was happy. So she went back to bed. The next morning, all of the Christmas presents under the tree were unwrapped, paper was all over the place. I had put a present for Booger under the tree with catnip in it. And he found the catnip. When I was living in Andover, I had to put Booger down. He was 19. And one of my friend's daughter was an Episcopal deacon. And so I got out the prayer book, and she was the minister, and her husband was the undertaker. And had him buried right there.
Oh. This will be a charity.
I just thought of my very best friend, Wanda Giannacchio. She's my age, and she's still living and doing much better than I am. We grew up in each other's homes, had the same kind of parents, and just loved it. We've always loved each other. And I just think about her a lot. Well, we talk on the phone all the time.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't have many friends left.
That's a hard place to be, I know.
Yeah,
It's nice to still be alive, but you haven't
it
let your
is.
friends die before you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you deal with that?
Well, I used to talk to him all the time. And when I do say my prayers now, I still talk to him. You know, I talk to Mother and Daddy a lot. I'll talk to Ethel and Meredith and my bridge, all my friends, and tell them I can't wait to see them, you know, and things like that. And I do believe I will see them again. Mary's my oldest daughter. She graduated from UALR with a degree in music. And by this time, she already had John. So she and John went after that degree, she went to Boston and got another degree in music from Berklee School of Music. And she taught music and raised John at the same time, and did very, very well. She was a vocal instructor, voice teacher, and she did that, and she was the choir director at church. She did a lot of things with music. And then there was an accident, and she could no longer do the singing. And she came back to Little Rock and lived with me. And we were very, very close. And then one day she found a house, and she wanted to remodel this house. And it's become almost a 7-year project because it's got to be done just right. And Mary has furnished it with beautiful, and not antiques, pictures. It's furnished beautifully. And she will fix a room and get it all ready first before she goes on to the next project. But we're now to the den. And the floor is in, the walls are in, and she called me last night and said, "Mother, they found snakes in the attic." And I said, "Mary, I don't want to hear any more about your problems with this house."
Snakes in the attic.
But anyway, she and I love each other very much, and I don't see that much of her anymore because she's been sick for about 6 months with some kind of respiratory thing, and she's doing this house. But I love her very much, and she's very talented. Something funny, when we were growing up, when she was growing up, she loved this cartoon called Top Cat. It was about cats that lived in the alley, and the top cat lived on top of a garbage can. And Grayson was the top cat of the neighborhood. All the kids came over to our house and they played out in the, not in the garbage can, but they played at our house. And we nicknamed her Top Cat. Yeah, that's how she got that name, Top Cat. Miss Grayson has taken care of me so well since I have been in my elder years. She takes care of my finances. Not that there's that much to take care of, but she, you know, like telephone bills and there still is a lot to take care of. And she literally takes care of me, of all the things that I need. And she comes over once a week, usually on Saturdays, mostly Sundays, maybe, and we play canasta. And when we're through playing canasta, we play gin rummy. Now she can beat me at canasta, but she can't beat me at gin rummy. And we have a little thing going there, a little fun thing going there. She has her own business. She does permanent makeup, and it's very successful. And I'm very proud of her.
And people around here know her, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, everybody in this building knows her. They say, "Here comes that lady with the hat." Grayson loves hats, and she always wears a different hat, and she's known as the great lady with the hat. I don't know what I'd do without her. I'm proud of all three of my children and their accomplishments. There's Mary, who is a musician, Grayson, who knows how to do something. She takes care of me, and she has her own business, and she's very good at it. And Martha is my world traveler, and Matthew has come through a lot of pain and heartache, and he has come through it beautifully, and I'm so proud of him. Joe's he's only got two children living now, Jill and Joey. Joey is the oldest child, and then Jenny, and then Jill, who lives in Florida, and then Jeff is the youngest, and Jeff passed away from a heart condition, and Jenny had breast cancer and died, and we miss them. And Joey and Vicki have a son, and that makes me a great-grandmother, and his name is Caleb, and we all love Caleb, so I am a great-grandmother. Joey and Vicki, Joey is a stepson. My husband and I got married. He had 4 kids. I had 4 kids. I feel like I raised Joey and Vicki, because Vicki was at our house all the time, and she went to college with Jenny, who was her best friend, and she got a degree in education, and she teaches school, teaches first and second graders, and is still doing that.
In Florida.
In Florida. And they have 2 children and 1 son and 1 grandson named Caleb. And Caleb is my great-grandson.
Okay. What's this about Kilgore Rangerettes?
Oh, they were Kilgore Rangerettes, Vicki and Jenny, and they were really good. And we would go to all of their things where they would go around town, you know. They march.
Okay.
They march with the band.
Okay.
And they're very, very good.
And what does Joey do now?
He's very good with the computers. And he's been a very good provider for his family.
Okay, tell me about John.
Oh, John. John's my grandson. And he was the cutest little boy. I had more fun with him. And when he had three grandfathers, and they were really good for him, a good male influence for him. And he went to the University of Arkansas, and I think he went to five colleges before he got his degree. But he was up at the university. And I may have told you this before, but he wanted me to go with him to get a room, to rent a room. And I did. And the lady who was renting the room asked him, said, "John, are you good with fixing things?" And he said, "Oh, you mean like when somebody puts their fist through the wall and you can fix it?" And he did not get it.
Wrong answer.
He didn't get the room. But another thing I remember was when John was in high school. He found an old car and he wanted me to help him get it. Of course, you know what help means. "Grandmother, will you buy it?" So anyway, I went to look for it. And it didn't have a motor. And I said, "John, you can't drive a car without a motor." He said, "I'll get one. I'll get one. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." So, being the old grandmother, I bought the car for him. And today it is worth a lot on the market for
I'm seeing
old cars.
$20,000 is what I see here.
Old cars.
Oh, so he still has it?
No. Oh no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no. And I'm real proud of this boy. He's turned out to be a very good financier. He graduated with computers, but he's just wonderful and has a fabulous job. He owns his own company. He drives a truck, one of these huge 18-wheeler that transports cars around the country. And he owns his own rig, and he owns his own house now on Lake Hamilton, and he owns his own boat. And I'm real proud of him, and I'm sure his three grandfathers who are in heaven are proud of him too. Martha was a precious little girl, precious. She graduated, she didn't graduate, she went to Boston University for about 3 years. And while she was there, she took a semester at sea, and that was quite a deal for her, to get to travel around the world on a ship and study at the same time.
Wow.
There were Harvard professors that took their families with them, and they studied while they were going around the world.
Study ocean things?
Ocean liner, yeah.
Yeah.
And then later, after she got out of school, she got a job in California with this company that worked for the History Channel. And she was the producer for several really neat programs, like The Last Comanche Indians, which was interesting.
Last Comanche warrior?
Warrior. And she did some other things. But while she was doing the one in Pearl Harbor, being a scuba diver, they took her down and let her see the ship that was bombed so bad.
The Arizona was.
The Arizona. She got to scuba dive around that whole ship.
Wow. They don't let just anybody do that, do they?
She also scuba dived once. I didn't care for that one. I didn't like it when she went swimming with the whales either, but she did it, and that was Martha.
I see skydiving here also.
She did that one time, skydiving.
And told you about it later?
Oh, no, she only did it once.
What about her dog, Shanty?
Oh, Martha, and when she was living in Texas, she would call me up every afternoon on our way home, and we would laugh about things about her dog, Shanti. She was on her way to pick up Shanti. Shanti was at daycare, and she loved that dog. That dog was so funny. I had to sit in the back seat while the dog sat in the front seat. Now this is the truth. I let that dog do that to me just because I'm me. And a funny story about Matthew is I had just had my floors refinished, and Matthew was about 3 or 4 years old, and something told me to go check. He had brought the sprinkler into the living room and was out there getting ready to turn it on. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Mommy, I want to help you keep your living room clean."
Oh.
Wasn't that sweet?
Oh.
But I caught him just in time.
Before he turned it on, huh?
Before he turned it on, yeah.
Ah, that's funny.
Matthew loved to tinker around with cars, anything, and he loved to buy metal and sell it and make money, and he was really good at that. And he loved to fix up cars. And one day I went out to get in my car to go to work, and it didn't have a carburetor. Matthew had taken the carburetor out of my car.
Oh no.
And was sitting in the garage floor playing with my carburetor. So naturally I was late for work that day.
Uh-huh.
And he's had a hard life. He really has. But he's been a good sport about it. But after all this, he's turned out to be a very fine man. All those years that he had all his troubles, he's now in church and taking homeless people to church. And he calls me every Sunday night or the next day to tell me about the people he took, the homeless people that he took to church.
Oh.
I'm really so proud of him. And he has a friend, George. Let me tell you about George. We've known George for a long time. And George is a real straight shooter. And whenever I needed to know something about Matthew, I would call George and ask George what's going on. And he would always say, "I'll go fix it." So he would go find Matthew and help him fix up the troubles. And George is like a brother to Matthew, and he's like a son to me. I love George very much. Megan was this adorable little 11 or 12-year-old girl that came into our lives. And she brought such great love and joy to us. Now, I mean to our whole family. The whole family loved Megan. And when she got older, she joined the cotillion club. And Grayson and Mary would go out and buy her dresses and bring them home. And she would dress up in these beautiful dresses, and we'd pick one out for her to go to cotillion. And then she'd come home and teach us all the dances that she learned. And it was just a wonderful family get together. And I had a cat named Booger. And she would put my cat in the roller the thing that we put groceries in, and she would roll that cat all over the house. And I don't know who liked it more, Megan or Booger. Booger loved it. And she was just a total delight. I had a coat that she needed a coat. And I had this wonderful coat that my mother had given me. And it was a long black coat, and it was time for cotillion. And I gave her that coat, and she just thought that hung the moon. She loved that black coat. So she had it was like having your grandmother's black coat, because I was her mother, and we had aunts and uncles and several people being the mother and to Megan, because she had not had a very happy home life until she met us. Oh. But anyway, as she grew older, she traveled around the world, and then she joined the Navy. And after the Navy, she's now trying to decide what she's going to do with her life. But we keep in touch with her, and I am still the grandmother. And we love our Megan.
And something about a colored poncho?
The colored poncho? Oh, that colored poncho. She loved that colored poncho. And I took it off and gave it to her, and she just wore it all the time, and we couldn't get it off of her to wash it. She just wore it all the time.
Oh. And family dinners with Tommy, Susan, and Gus?
When we would have family dinners with Tommy, Susan, and Gus. Now, Gus was her real uncle, we think. But anyway, we would have wonderful dinners with all of us. And it was a very meaningful thing. And she brought really so much love into our family. And she needed lots of love herself. And we were happy to give it. Ronnie was Big CoCo's grandson, Robbie's son. And Ronnie, CoCo, Big CoCo, was babysitting Ronnie, and she didn't feel good. And so I said, well, I'll go do the grocery shopping for you. Just give me a list. So I took Ronnie, put him in the jump seat, and we went off to Safeway. Now, I did not shop at Safeway. I shopped at Terry's. But this time we were going to go to Safeway. So I didn't know anybody in this Safeway store. And I am tootling around with Ronnie, this little black baby, in my grocery cart, and I am pregnant. And all of a sudden, I just love this kid, and I'm giving him candy, and he's grabbing stuff, and I mean, it just looked like normal. mother and son. And all of a sudden I realized everybody in the store is looking at us. And this was in the days before it was okay to like each other. This is segregation. And so I told Ronnie, we have got to get the you-know-what out of here fast. So I took him, left all the groceries in the cart, put him in the car, and we went up to Terry's, where everybody knew him and me.
Really? Oh, that's kind of sad.
And he grew up and went to, and he graduated from the Air Force Academy and went on to have 3 master's degrees. Very, very smart young man. I'm very proud of him. I've just lived life as it comes. I guess the thing that changed my life was going to work and making a living. And finding something I was good at,
Right.
which was sales.
Right.
Now, I was raised not to work. I didn't have to work. My daddy wouldn't even let me take typing. Most everybody could type. I could, to this day, I can't type. And that would have been a real benefit to me if I could have typed.
So
But sales was good. I developed a knack for sales. And the way I did it was to become their friend. I didn't go in for all that canned stuff. If there were a way that, you know what I'm talking about, all those canned sayings.
Oh yeah. You didn't need a script.
Yeah, just be friends with them and get interested in them and want to do something for their company.
Right. What kind of music do you like now?
Well, it's really funny. This woman down here plays this music all the time, and I just love it when she puts on Elvis. Now, I didn't used to like Elvis. I was always a music nerd. I loved classical music. I mean, I played the piano and I played classics, and not all through my life, but I was a classical nerd.
Really?
And I love the 60s. I loved the Carpenters and that era.
So, when's the last time you played the piano?
Oh, God, 50, 60 years ago.
Really? But you were good at it then?
I was fair at it.
Yeah?
Fair. I could play by ear. I couldn't read music. I couldn't read, period. I had dyslexia.
Really?
And I got through college on C's. And I took a lot of courses in music and art and architecture where I didn't have to read much.
So you had dyslexia back before they knew what?
Yeah, they
there
didn't.
was such a thing.
They didn't have a clue.
Right. You just.
I became an alcoholic, but it's been 40 years since I've had a drink.
Congratulations.
40 years.
Wow. That's amazing. Quite a testimony. And people, as you know, struggle with that all the time.
Yeah.
Any advice you can give for people struggling with addiction?
Go to AA. Absolutely go to AA.
And here you are on the other side, just celebrating life. So
Yeah.
what a testimony.
Yeah. Now, I have been blessed with having several spiritual experiences. And I guess the biggest one while I was drinking. Now, I mean, I got up and went to work every day. I wasn't a total wipeout,
Right.
you know. But when 5 o'clock came and Joe put a drink in my hand, I accepted it. I couldn't say no. And that's why I had to get the divorce from him, because he wouldn't let me stop. And they all know that. The kids all know this.
Right. You were talking about spiritual experience?
Yeah, the spiritual experience is, I don't care where I was, I would see a bunch of clouds. Beautiful, just wonderful clouds. And I knew there was something behind these clouds. And I couldn't part the clouds. This is true story. I couldn't see on the other side of the clouds. And so I went to AA and I asked God to please help me surrender so I could get past this. And one day I was driving, do you know Dallas? I was driving down Preston Road, and I had been in the program for 6 weeks, and here come the clouds. Now I'm fully aware of driving, and I'm fully aware of being in this scene, and the clouds parted, and there's all this gold bars everywhere, and all of a sudden they shattered, and I am just sprinkled with gold sand.
While you're driving?
While I'm driving. I'm in 2 different realms at the same time.
Wow.
I never thought about it again. I never stopped at the liquor store. I never even thought about having a drink after that.
Wow. That's a higher power.
Yeah. Now my kids know this story.
Right.
But I'm not proud of the fact. But, you know, unless you've been one, you know that you cannot help it. It is a disease. And there's only one way to get out of it, and that's with a higher power.
Appreciate that.
Stay happy. Stay happy.
How do you do that?
Well, for one thing, you have to have a happy nature, I think. And I do have a happy nature.
Do you feel like that's something you can choose or something that you're born with?
I really think it's something you're born with, because I see people that should be happy, and they're not. They don't have any reason not to be happy. And then there are others that have terrible lives, and they learn to be happy for other people. And I may have said this, but I really feel like God put me here for a reason. It's to help people.
So you got the happy thing.
I got the happy gene. I really did.
And you spread it to the people around you.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
By just being happy. I don't dwell on the unpleasant things. Now, I mean, I think about unpleasant things a lot, but so they happened. But it comes easy for me.
Right.
It doesn't come easy for a lot of people.
Right.
Count your blessings. Really, count your blessings. Now, that's corny,
No, not at all.
but it's true. Think of something nice that's happened to you today. You got to learn to laugh, and you got to laugh at yourself. Mainly, you got to laugh at yourself.
So you spend a lot of time laughing at yourself?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you got to learn to laugh at life. Life's going to hand you some lemons. Make some lemonade.
yeah,
It's going to hand you some knocks. Get over them. Of course, I'd tell them to take the Dale Carnegie course. I mean, that really would be my answer. Learned. Now, I've never made a speech in my life. I've never gotten up in front of a group and made a real speech.
well, that's too bad.
I don't know why I haven't,
I don't either. You'd be great at it.
but it just never came up.
Right?
But I have the confidence to go out and do things that I didn't have the confidence to do before. When choosing a mate, choose one that you can be friends with.
Right.
It's as my father used to say, marriage starts at the breakfast table. It doesn't just start in the bed. It starts being with the person and having breakfast with them and going all through the day. And they were a very good example of a marriage. Well, in a marriage, stay best friends. I had that once. I did not have that one time.
Right.
And it was too bad. You need to stay friends. That they had a mother that absolutely adored them and was proud of all of them and was proud that I could be their mother. There are times I'm sure they didn't think I was the best mother, and I wasn't. But I changed things in my life and became a better mother.
And do you have any feelings about what's going to become of you when you die?
I hope I'm not wrong, but I feel like everything is going to be okay. There's something I want to say to all 4 of my children. God couldn't have given me 4 better children. I've had a very, very happy life, and these 4 children are a part of my happiness. And I want you to do something for me. I want you to always be close to one another and have God with you in your heart at all times. Be close to one another because there's nothing like family. And just remember, I'm just a whisper away. I've talked to Mimi and Papa all ever since they've been gone. And Big CoCo. I talk to them, and you can talk to me too, because I'll be right there, right with you.